Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencers Podcast coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. And today we've got CEO of Embroidery Studio and HSB Custom Apparel, Mr. Patrick Skiffington. Now, Patrick is not just dealing with embroidery and custom apparel. I mean, this guy's been a Renaissance man over the ages. He's been an author, a speaker, a coach, a consultant. He's been in real estate. He is a Renaissance man, a fellow who is expert in many areas, but today I want to pin him down. I want to talk just about the Embroidery Studio and HSB, which is Hollywood Signs and Branding. So welcome to the show, to the Influencers Podcast. Patrick, come on down.
Good morning, Dr. Good morning.
You're welcome.
Thank
Glad
you. Thank you
you're
for
here.
having me.
Yeah, you're the man I've been looking forward to getting started talking to all day. First in line for the week. That's always a special place with the Influencers Podcast. Early bird gets the worm. Tell us about where you were, what happened, and who you were surrounded by that inspired you to get into this business that we're going to talk about today.
Oh, wow. So I would have to probably give the corny answer, which is my family, my mother, my grandmother specifically, as a child. My grandmother was a wedding dress designer and a seamstress, and a pretty humble woman, actually, and it taught me a lot. I spent a lot of time with her. My dad was an overachiever, kind of like me. And I think that's where I got that from. And he worked a lot. So my mom also worked. So I spent a lot of time with my grandmother as a child. And she was making wedding dresses. And I got the bug about how people react to custom clothing and how happy it made people. And she used to let me help her. And she taught me a lot. And that was kind of when I got the bug in me to do this. I never did it professionally until recently, to be honest with you, the last 8-10 years. But that's where it was. That was the moment. As a child, spending time with my grandmother, watching her do it. And she never focused on money. That was another lesson she taught me. She never really focused on the money. It was more about the pleasure of making people happy. And that has stuck with me through my entire life and served me well, not only in this career, but in every career I've had.
Well, I like to hear the story when you talk about grandmothers, just following up. We just passed Mother's Day yesterday here, and inspiration comes from those who are most dear to our heart. Did you have a time as you were growing up that you would identify as like your valley, your greatest failure time, where you learned something valuable and then you recovered from it that propelled you on to this level?
Oh gosh, yeah, there's lots of those to choose from. Going back to growing up, I would say it was there were many times, but the similarities in all of them was that you put yourself out there and you take risks. And that's what life is really about. You put yourself out there, you hope for a great outcome, but that's not the reality of life. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Hopefully it happens more than not. But I think the important part is learning to pick yourself up and, making, back to my grandmother, a saying she used to say, making lemonade out of lemons. When life hands you lemons, do something with them. And I always, that lesson always stuck with me, and it's something that carried me through life. And when those times happen and those failures happen, you figure out how to turn it around. But I think the other part of that too, Dr. Bill, is also, and this may be the most important thing in there, is learning the lessons from them. There's lessons in everything, and really in failures, I think, are some of our greatest lessons. I'll give you one example. If I'm looking at the greatest failure in my business life, and the lesson I took from it, it was when I was back in real estate, and I had, I was on an aggressive growth path, and I had opened up a brand new office, and it was part of a franchised real estate company. And I went out and signed a lease on about 8,000 square feet of commercial space. I did a $250,000 build out. I went out and personally recruited about 45 top agents to come over to the company when we opened it. And, I was on the hook for a lot of money. And what happened, the failure in it was the night before we opened, I basically got a call from the corporate headquarters of the franchise saying that they had received a letter from a competitor threatening a lawsuit. And so they were, because of where my office was located and territorial restrictions, et cetera, et cetera. And long story short, basically said I could not open the office. So here I was with, a couple $100,000 invested. I was on the hook for millions of dollars over the term of the lease, and the plans were flushed. I couldn't use the building. I couldn't use the space. Devastating. It was truly devastating. So what I had to do was quickly say, okay, this is probably the worst thing professionally that's ever happened to me, but what am I going to do? I have to figure this out. So I did a little bit of research, a lot of research, and, sat down and really did some soul searching and went out and I said, okay, what is this space configured for? And it was a lot of individual offices. So I went out and studied at the time, which was executive suites. And it was where people, rented office space that didn't necessarily have a place to work. And I researched that model, found out the place was perfect for it, hired a consultant very quickly to come in and teach me everything I needed to know about that business, and launched it. Basically, revamped it. And within about 30 days, we launched executive suites in that space. And it turned out to be an incredible success story. We filled it up completely in about 6 months. We expanded it over the next year and ended up in the long term selling that business. Wasn't something I intended to be in, but going back to making lemonade out of lemons, that's what I did. But more importantly, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from it. I was younger, obviously, and I was on a path of growth and experiencing a lot of success in the real estate world, and didn't do my homework as well as I should have. And so it taught me to slow down. It taught me to, make sure all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and make sure that I've done my homework completely before I dive into something. Not to say I've never made mistakes again, but it was a great lesson that I took from probably my greatest failure professionally.
Yeah, that's valuable. Thank you for sharing that, Patrick. I find that sometimes when people are at their lowest, they have the most fight in them, and they make that lemonade out of the lemons pretty adroitly. For me, I owner financed a sale of a dental practice, and the guy had to give it back to me just 2 years later, and I had to kind of resurrect what he had broken. And I know the exact same feeling, but I came out of it and I learned, get your money up front when you leave anything.
Yeah.
Don't own or finance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is another group? What's another group of things that you think people do? What reasons do they fail other than not digging deep enough into the details before they make a decision?
I think from my own experience, one of the things is giving up too early. I think life always, when you're on the path of achieving success, no matter what industry or what field or what position it's in, life is going to throw obstacles at you. That's what gives us the fight to keep pushing through. And I think a lot of people, myself included, at different periods of time in my life, give up too soon. We confront something and we think that's the end, when sometimes you just got to push a little harder and push through it, and that's where breakthroughs happen. So I would say that's one thing. I think another, reflecting on my past, at least another reason that we fail sometimes is having the wrong people either on the bus or the wrong people in the wrong seats on the bus. And I've made that mistake more times than I care to recall. Even recently, it seems to be one of those mistakes I keep making. But it's great to see the best in people always. I do believe in that. But I think, we also have to be realistic about setting people up for success and making sure that they're in the right seat, that they're doing the right job, that they have the right environment to succeed in. So doing our homework there as well, making sure we surround ourselves with the best people possible for success avoids that failure. And then I think, making sure that you have a big why, that when you're doing anything, that you have a purpose behind it, and it motivates you and it drives you, because the first thing I mentioned, giving up too soon, if you don't have that, you're not going to push through those moments, and then you're going to have to accept failure as reality. So I would say they're probably the top three things for me, at least, that have contributed to the many lessons I've learned over the years in business.
Yeah, I agree with that. In my teaching, I always have 5 things that I talk about, and certainly the having the wrong team, not the right players on the bus, it's a big problem. And if you don't have that, you can't be too successful. But to go back to what motivates you internally, and that talks about giving up too early or not having perseverance. How did you find that you had the perseverance to follow through? That was the question about motivation internally.
That was something, really, I learned at a very young age, from my dad. My dad was a very hard worker. He wasn't around a lot because of that. And, but he did teach me a lot of lessons about, the value of hard work, number one. Number two, doing what you say you're going to do. When you put yourself out there and you give somebody your word, that's your highest currency, and making sure you do whatever you've promised or committed to someone to do. And he did also teach me about the value of failure, and what I mentioned earlier, the lessons in that. But, all of those things have always motivated me. But I think, the thing that probably motivates me the most is just making other people happy through what I do. And, we all have different backgrounds. We all have different roles in life, from the corner gas station attendant to the brain surgeon. We all have a big part of this thing called life. And I think no matter what our job or what our role or, whatever it is we do in life, we have a commitment to each other to do it the best we can. And when everyone does that, that's what makes the world a great place. So the biggest motivator I have is making other people happy, making people, whatever I've committed to them, I always like to exceed that. And I push every day to do that. I wake up every day, and that's what makes me happy to go to work instead of dread it. I love to see smiles on people's faces. I love to know that what I've done every day brings joy to people, even a small way. That's my greatest motivator today.
Well, in that vein, we talk about making people happy, and your custom embroidery and your designs really do set you apart as something that's unique and individualized. So tell us more about the company motto, perhaps, of Hollywood Signs and Branding, the embroidery studio, and the things you're doing that are custom for your clients.
Well, I think, if it's a motto, my motto, and the thing that I instill in all of my employees every day, is to under promise and over deliver. But even that under promise, I want that to be better than any of our competition. But then, I think I forget the word. I think it's called the lagniappe. I learned this at a very young age. I think it's a New Orleans thing, where you tell someone you're going to do this, but you do this and then plus it somehow. And that stuck with me very early in my professional life. And I've tried to always do that, no matter what I'm doing, whether it was real estate or anything, any type of business, is always make sure that we go that extra mile, that we deliver that plus factor. And in what I do today, which is, mostly apparel, we really try to do that in a lot of ways. It's through creativity. It's through individualism and customization, and really surprising people with things that, frankly, in the world we live in today, where everything comes from China and everything's mass produced and everything's disposable, to really create something that's special and unique and makes people feel important, and something they can be proud to wear. And so we do that every day. It's under promise, over deliver, and absolutely deliver our best to every single person.
I think that kind of goes right along with the 3 success secrets that others can learn from you to model after. A lot of it you started talking about there. So how would you add on to the secret you just mentioned?
I think it's perseverance. We mentioned that earlier, but business, life, no matter what we do in this world, we always hit those walls. We hit those obstacles. We have to deal with those challenging people. But I think if we boil it down to the core, and that's what I really try to do mentally every day, boil it down to the core. We face challenging people every day, and it's very easy to lose our patience. It's very easy to get frustrated. It's very easy sometimes to lose our cool. But I think, if we remember that we're all humans and we're all in this experience called life together, and, we have bad days, everyone else has bad days, but really try to focus it on what an individual that is in front of us or a customer is feeling at that moment and what they're looking for from us. And when we boil it down to that and get rid of all the superficial stuff, it allows us to be our best. It allows us to deliver our best. It allows us to bring value, which is what we do, bring value to that customer every day. So focusing on value, focusing on delivering our best, making sure, I'm big on quality, huge on quality. I think, again, no matter whether we do it, whether that's a service or a product, we need to be the best that we can be and bring that every day, no matter what, and overcome any obstacle that gets in the way.
Give us some pointers on why somebody should buy from you.
Oh, great question. Well, we have our internal sales spiel, but it's nothing more than that. I think when you boil it down, it really comes down to, we truly care. We really do truly care. And I can tell you, story after story, but we have people that come in that, they're stretching their last penny to do what they need to do. And then we have people that come in that just throw money at everything. And I'm big on my employees about treating everyone the same. I think it's really taking money out of the equation. And as I get older, that really is something that is becoming more important to me, is just to take the money out of it. And money's important. Of course, we can't pay our bills. We can't stay in business without it. We need to pay attention to it. But I think when it comes to our customer experience, we make it the same no matter what you're spending. We make it the same no matter what the product is. And the same being, we deliver the best, absolute best we can in that situation when it comes to quality, when it comes to service, when it comes to the fit of the product for what you're trying to accomplish. That's our goal. And that's what we try to do for every single customer. And I would say that's the greatest reason to do business with us.
Yeah, I like that approach. Equal treatment. I found my success in dentistry came largely from treating everybody the same. And no matter what they looked like when they came in, they always look better when they went out. Who's your ideal client?
Oh, gosh. Our ideal client is somebody who's open to creativity and open to alternative solutions. And I'll be honest with you, Dr. Bill, that's the majority of our clients. And I don't know whether, we attract those clients or that's just who's out there. But I would say most of our clients are our ideal clients, in that they come in and they're looking for solutions and they're open to accepting our consult on that. And they're open-minded in looking at those solutions. And I to pat ourselves on the back, we're really good about looking at the budget client comes in with, and then finding solutions that accomplish the goal within that budget, 90% of the time, 95% of the time. and
Is there
it
a
works really
specific
well.
is there a specific technique or way you find these ideal clients?
Um, I wish I had an answer for that. I think certainly proximity. I spent many years studying and traveling with Tony Robbins, and one of the greatest lessons he ever taught me was proximity is power. And you know, by that he meant, put yourself where your ideal client is. Put yourself in the path of your ideal client. And when I opened my current business, that was the lesson that I really focused on, was where are my ideal clients? And we're in a brick and mortar business now, but where can I position myself that I'm going to be in their path? And so that's how we find most of them. They walk in the door, to be honest with you. But it's because we positioned ourselves in a location, Hollywood, California, where creative types walk the streets every day, and they're looking for things that differentiate themselves from their competition. So that's how we did it this time.
I couldn't agree with that more. I set up my dental practice on the corner that was to be the busiest zip code in America for 2 years, and
Wow.
busiest growth area. And so putting yourself in a position of power by being in the proximity of that client flow, it's really it's a winning idea. So yeah, I agree with that. Tony taught us well, didn't he?
He certainly did. He certainly did.
Tell me about your well-defined product or service.
So, what we're known for right now, our main product and service is embroidery. And Dr. Bill, if we were doing this, 20 years ago or even 15 years ago, and someone told me I would be in the embroidery business, I would have thought you were crazy, quite honestly. I'm not sure how I ended up here, but I did. And so what we're known for is embroidery. How did I end up here? I always had a fascination for it, going back to my grandmother. Always had a fascination for needle and thread and fabric and how they all come together to create something beautiful. And after I sold my real estate office, just quickly, after I sold my real estate offices and I was looking for something else to do, I thought I put money aside and I was like, I'm just going to try this. It's something I've always been fascinated with. So embroidery kind of became my thing. And the more I learned about it and the more I participated in it and got creative with it, the more I loved it. I just loved what you can do with it. And then I recognized how broadly, I went out one day and I said, try to get through today without seeing something embroidered on someone, or try to get through any day, and when you're aware of it, you see it everywhere. And then I realized it was a need that everybody had. So we defined our product and differentiated ourselves from everybody else that does it by the creativity behind it, rather than just, embroidering or slapping a logo on a polo shirt. We really pride ourselves and we define our product and the service we provide in getting creative, finding creative ways to do that, finding ways to differentiate the product from other people that do it. And that's what we do every single day. We try to, do it the Lanyap thing, do it one better than everyone else, try to find and push the envelope a little differently and find creative and new ways to embroider apparel. So that's what we do.
I think about the embroidery of apparel, and the first thing that comes to mind is the cowboy, the country western singers' presentation jackets from the stage back, particularly in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Has that made a resurgence out in California? The embroidery outer clothes?
It's funny. The style you're speaking of is chain stitch embroidery, and it has made a huge comeback, probably in the last year or two, which kind of surprised me, quite frankly. We had a lot of our Beverly Hills clients coming in when we first opened asking for chain stitch, and I had heard of it and was aware of it, but did some research, and it was actually what was used in that country Western decor from the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. And it is quite an art, and it's done on 100-year-old machines, which I'm looking at right now. I ended up buying one and having it shipped over from Australia because they're very hard to find. But it is a true art. And people in Hollywood like Post Malone and some of the younger, brand new rappers and musicians are embracing it, and they're paying, $25,000, $30,000 for these few artisans left who do that, and are bringing back that style. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely, it is making a comeback.
I don't know about your competition, but I know that there are several outfits out there that I bought that had embroidery, namely Hard Rock Hotel, Hard Rock Cafe, Hollywood, Planet Hollywood, rather. The big bomber jackets with the embroidery on them.
Yep, beautiful.
So those were some competition busters there. That everybody had to have one back in the day.
Yeah.
How do you actually crush your competition right now?
I think in our business, it has been, well, we can't ignore the pandemic. The pandemic had a big impact on a lot of things, all of us. And in my particular business, I was in it before the pandemic, and of course I'm in it now. But, the whole thing with China and manufacturing in China, a lot of the embroidery that's done today comes from China because you can't beat the prices at the end of the day. Quality is a whole nother discussion, but certainly from a pricing standpoint, when it comes to mass production, China is a huge factor. When the pandemic hit, a lot of the companies here in California and truthfully across the country, the people that had the skill set to operate embroidery machines were older. They had been doing it for 20, 30 years. And, there's not a lot of 20 somethings today saying, hey, when I grow up, I want to be an embroiderer. It isn't on the radar anymore. So what happened post pandemic, Dr. Bill, is that a lot of these artisans, the people who actually do the work, retired, when the pandemic hit and all that happened, they left the industry. So when things started to pick up again, particularly here in California, where we were shut down for almost a full year, when things started to pick back up again, I know in my personal business and everyone I know in our industry, the biggest challenge was there were no people left to do the work. And it was a huge problem. And, prior to the pandemic, I wasn't I wasn't operating the machines necessarily. I was out selling and I was running the company. When the pandemic lifted and my customers woke up and started to come back, I had no employees anymore. There was nobody left. They had all retired. And, we were placing ads everywhere and anywhere we could. And no one was responding. So I had to get my hands dirty, get back in there, be a quick study and learn it. And, that was kind of, to answer your question, that was kind of the catalyst on how we can crush our competition. And that was because we really kind of revamped what we did. We didn't focus on mass production anymore. We didn't focus necessarily on the 300 and 400 piece jobs or 1,000-piece jobs. We focused on more of a customization. So the consultation with customers, which is something you can't get in China. Taking a customer like a Hard Rock or, a Planet Hollywood or somebody who's always done it this way for many years. And now we're in a new world and looking at it differently and consulting with them. And, a lot of times that's creativity and saying, hey, okay, well, what if we do this? Or what if we mix embroidery with this? Or, what if we do it on a higher quality piece and it becomes an archival piece as opposed to a gift shop, piece that somebody's going to wear for a couple months and throw away. So consultation is how we crush our competition. Creativity is how we crush our competition. And, we've trained people now. We've to overcome the the employee issue, we're growing people from the ground up, and we're teaching them differently on how to consult, how to be creative, how to do embroidery differently in a way that stands out from the competition.
Sounds to me like you became an artist. You became more of a custom designer after the pandemic forced you into small scale, and then you continue to take that and grow, and now you're into a new level.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been good for us because people will pay for that. They appreciate that. They no matter what you do, when you consult people and you really care and you really hear them and understand what their goals are and help them find new and different ways to reach them, they appreciate that, and they're willing to do business with you, and they're willing to pay a little more for that service. So that's what's worked for us.
Do you have any online platforms that you use to get your message out, to connect to people that you rely on?
It's a great question, and I've recently learned or relearned, I should say, the value of that. I've always been, whether it be real estate or anything I've ever done, kind of old fashioned, I guess you could say, in the face to face. I love to be face to face with my customers, my clients, and that's how I've always earned business. But I don't think any of us anymore can ignore the impact of social media and an online presence. And I fought it. I'll be honest with you. I have fought it like many, but you can't ignore it. It's an efficient way to get our message out, especially for someone like myself and what we do. We're in the visual arts business. When you have in what you do, you have a before and after picture. You can't argue with that. You can't argue with that. And being online and having a great presence online and in social media in a busy world like we are in today and will probably always be in, it's how people communicate and interact, love it or hate it. It's just the way it is. So having that presence is extremely important. I have not fully honored that, and I have not fully committed to that. I just recently hired a magnificent PR person who you've had on your show, Allison Kennedy here in Hollywood, and she has taught me that. So she is thankfully posting every day, and we're seeing the results of that. And so it has piqued my interest again. And I'm doing my part. Love it or hate it, fight it. You can't fight it, but I'm doing my part again, and we're working on it and growing it every single day, and we're seeing the results of it, most importantly.
I'm sure
So
that
I'm a big fan.
with the work that you're doing and your excellent client results, you're going to have 5-star experiences, and they're going to lead to having brand ambassadors speak in your behalf, I'm sure. Are you doing anything special to convert your clients into the brand ambassadors?
I think, Dr. Bill, we do that, and I've always done that, and no matter what I've done, by going that extra mile and providing that extra service. And I think, you can do that, but I think behind it, there has to be true sincerity and caring, because people have great radars. They can smell, BS a mile away. But when you truly care about people, truly care, that comes through in your work, that comes through in your product, that comes through in your post-sale customer service and outreach to your clients and to your customers. And I think that's how they become brand ambassadors, when they feel like they've been treated well, when they feel like you're somebody that truly cares about them. They go out, and you don't, at least in my experience, you don't even have to ask them. They do it. If you're doing a great job and they truly feel special and they truly feel cared about and they truly feel your sincerity, which means it has to be real, then they become brand ambassadors. And we are truly blessed. We have a lot of brand ambassadors out there, and I can say proudly that I've never asked anyone to be that person, or really even, I don't think and this goes against everything I've learned, I don't think I've really ever asked anyone for a referral. We just really deliver and deliver strong, and the referrals come. And there's been even today, we don't charge first responders. We get a lot of first responders that come in because they need their uniforms, they need their whatever they're getting done, and they walk in and they hand over and tell us what they need, and then we do the work, and then when they come to pick it up, we hand them their work back, and they pull out their credit card, and we say, no, that's on us. We thank you for your service every day. And they're blown away, and we don't do that because we want them to refer to us. We do that because we truly care, and we truly appreciate, and we're truly grateful for the work they do every day. And it's a very small gesture on our part to give back to our community. So, we approach every customer with gratitude and appreciation, and we truly care. And that, if we're doing our best work every day, creates brand ambassadors.
Well, that really does go a long way to speaking to who you are as a company and as a person. So I'm sure that resonates in the community quite well. Looking back at your young self, and you've had a lot of life experience, you've navigated successfully through the waters. What would you give yourself advice if you were talking to that 20-year-old self?
Great question. I think the first and biggest piece of advice, looking back now, that I would give myself at that age, is to slow down a little bit. And when I say that, I mean, really learn to appreciate, learn to be grateful, learn to, take a deep breath before you take that next step, and there's a lot of value in that, and your earlier question about failures, and, my list is a mile long when it comes to that. But I think when I look back on all of them, you can pinpoint that I jumped in the water before I stuck my toe in. I was so eager for success. And that's another piece of advice that I would give myself, is to not focus on the money, and I said that earlier, but we all need that. We all need that. But I'm a big believer in Tony Robbins taught me this as well. Many other speakers and authors and people that I've indulged in have taught me this. If you focus on doing the right thing, and you focus on your passion, and you focus on the things, the natural gifts you have that can create value to someone else in life, the money always follows. And life isn't all about money. It isn't about money at all necessarily. It's more about contribution. And so that's the advice I would give myself. Slow up, take a breath before you take that next step. Focus on why you're taking that next step. Be grateful. Figure out what you're grateful for and focus on that.
Good advice. I think everybody should follow. We're mentors to many dentists growing through their practice years. And we always said one thing: if you take care of people, the money will come. That agrees with what you said as your advice. How about your mentor? You got a mentor right now besides, Tony would be the number one. Anybody else?
Tony has always been the guy that I go to for everything in life, personal, professional, and he has definitely served me well. Mentors in my industry here in Hollywood, they're changing constantly because I'm always encountering great people. But there is a gentleman, his name is Dave Thomas, and he's a stylist here in Hollywood. And I just love him. I love his work. I love his approach to his work. I love his work ethic. I love the way he approaches his customers. And I love the respect and admiration that his clients, very high profile clients, have for his work. And I think the thing that I admire most about him is how true he is to what he does. When I say that, I mean to his style, to the way he approaches his customers, how he doesn't stray off path for a quick buck, or for a quick spotlight. He stays true to what he does. And if I had to pick someone in my industry today here that I kind of look up to and model, to be honest, it would be him.
Excellent. Why is being impactful important to you, Patrick?
I think going back to what I shared before, we all have a very short time on this planet, respectively. And, when people are gone, the only thing left is the wake and the impact that they've left on the world and the people around them. And so I think being impactful should be important to all of us. And that doesn't necessarily mean we've authored a book, or, we have a medical center named after us. Those are great things, obviously, but it can be done in a very small way, and I look at people every day, and even when I go to the corner store, and the man that works there, who's there every single day, when I stop in to pay for my gas or whatever I'm buying that day, he treats me like he knows my name. He knows that I come in there every day. He knows what I get. And he's just so kind and giving. And truly, I look forward to that. I truly look forward to going in there every day, which is not something I can say about most places. But I do. I look forward to going in there because he takes the time to make me feel special. And, in what most would consider a very small job, or a very small role, or probably a position where you can't make a great impact in life, this gentleman has figured out how to do that. So I think we all have that obligation, and we all have that responsibility, no matter what we do. It doesn't matter, to leave a wake of impact on people, and that can be through a smile. It can be through remembering somebody's name, or it can be through what we do. It can be through being the best dentist, or being the best embroidery consultant, or the best real estate broker, whatever it is, leaving an impact on the people's lives that we have the opportunity to touch every day, and being grateful for that opportunity. And that's what's being impactful to me, is making people smile and making them remember my interactions with them on a daily basis.
What you're talking about brings up an image that we want to go back to living in Mayberry, where everybody knows who you are, like in Friends. Everybody's kind of a hometown, small town feel, even though we live in a busy area. So, I can understand what you're saying exactly. How can we support you and the Embroidery Studio, Hollywood Signs and Branding?
Well, I think just you've done it today, Dr. Bill. Even just the opportunity to sit here and think through everything that you brought to my attention today in terms of questions, has really kind of, it's helped me, as well as hopefully helped some of your listeners and viewers, and in making us all think about why we do things. And I think, when we have the opportunity to do this, even if it's just one thing, one thing that we forget, or one thing that kind of stands out as something we can do different in our daily interactions with people, it helps us be better people. It helps us be better business people. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this morning. It's been a true pleasure. And, we're in Hollywood, and, not everybody lives in our area, but certainly if anyone ever needs anything that I can help with, I'm here. Whether you're in our market or not, I love giving back and giving to people. So getting our message out has been huge. I appreciate that. The opportunity to spend some time with you this morning and talk about our journey has been incredible. Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. And it's been an excellent interview, and I enjoyed being with you, Patrick. Finding out about something that I didn't put a lot of thought to, but enjoy the benefits of the embroidery world all my life. I want to give you the last word. I want you to speak to our audience and just
Yeah. So, as I'm thinking through kind of the journey of this conversation we've had this morning, and, what kind of stuck out or sticks out to me as really the message for me for the day today is gratitude. I think what Dr. Bill just said in terms of the frantic pace and of the world we live in today. And it seems to get worse every single day. But I think, taking a breath every day, at least for me, and how I try to start every single day is to be grateful, and not just be grateful, but think about it and really focus on what I'm grateful for in that moment, in that day. And it really, it really, I believe in good energy. And when you do that, when you start off your day being grateful and thinking about all the things that are going right in your life, all the things that we all can be thankful for, whether it's just being able to get up in the morning, whatever it is, we all have things we can be grateful for. And really, when you start your day focusing on that, in my opinion anyway, it sets up your day and to be a great day. So practice gratitude and be in the moment, and look for opportunities to give to other people. And when you do all of those things, I believe it serves you tenfold. So that would be my final word today, Dr. Bill, is we all need to practice gratitude, kindness, and compassion to each other. And when we do that, it is a better world. It is Mayberry. And who doesn't love that? I think we all love a world that looks like that. So thank you again, Dr. Bill, for an amazing opportunity. It's great spending this time with you. Thank you.
You're sure welcome, Patrick. This has been a fun time learning about who you are and what's going on in your world. I applaud you for explaining it so well to our influencers podcast audience. They certainly did enjoy that, I'm sure. I want to remind everyone that the golden ticket is available, that you can go to otrim.co/golden for your golden ticket to join us and the influencers podcast group. A lot more going on than you know in the influencers world. So be sure that you go to this otrim.co/golden and become one of our friends. Get your free entry, the golden ticket. And when you do, then you'll have access to a lot more things than you realize. So this is Dr. Bill Williams signing off on the first Influencers podcast of the day. And we look forward to being with you in a few minutes with another fun time with our next guest. So thank you, Patrick, for that wonderful time with us. And we're going to